Jim Morrison looked at everything he had spent years building and decided he wanted to escape it. The band, the fame, the crowds chanting his name every night. By 1968, the doors were exploding. Jim Morrison should have been happier than he'd ever been. Instead, he was privately talking about quitting the band entirely, because he had started to realize something terrifying. The man the world loved was becoming impossible to live with. And the cruelest twist? The prison destroying him wasn't built by fame. It was built by Jim Morrison himself. Before any of that existed, before the records, the crowd, the name, Morrison was living on a rooftop in Venice Beach. Alone, hungry, barely sleeping. He had dropped out of ordinary life deliberately. Lost 30 pounds. Spent his days reading Nietzsche, Rimbaud, Blake. Reading obsessively. Not fighting himself, building someone. A character. A persona powerful enough to fill a room without saying a word. And it worked. The problem is what happened next. When you build a character that powerful, and millions of people fall in love with it, you can't explain to them that it was always just a construction. Because they didn't want the man, they want the myth. And the myth was starting to need Morrison more than Morrison needed. Raymond Zarek said something once that nobody really took seriously enough. Nietzsche killed Jim Morrison. It tells us something important about how Morrison seemed to view himself. It looked like chaos from the outside, but it wasn't chaos. It was a control experiment. And for a while, it produced results. The crowds got bigger. The legend got stronger. The myth kept feeding itself. But here's the detail that changes everything. After only 2 albums, at the height of it all, Morrison told the band he wanted to quit. Not pause, not rest. Quit. Manzarek talked him out of it. 6 months, then 6 more, then 6 more again. At the time, everyone around him read that as instability. Looking back, it reads differently. Like someone who had realized the experiment was no longer producing data. It was producing damage. And he wasn't sure anymore who was running it. March 1969, Miami. 14,000 people in a boiling hot seaplane hangar. Morrison rocked on stage already unraveling. Hours of delays. Alcohol, heat. And then the accusation. He allegedly exposed himself in front of the crowd. Newspapers exploded. Radio stations pulled the doors from their playlists. Arrest warrant. Federal charges. A trial. 500 photographs were entered into evidence. 500. No one clearly showed what Morrison was accused of. His bandmates denied it. People in the front row denied it. The photographs, who were paid to document every second of that show, denied it. The conviction came anyway. Now stop for a second, because this is the moment the story actually turns. Not legally, psychologically. Morrison may not have lost Miami because he went too far. He may have lost Miami because the public had already decided who Jim Morrison was supposed to be. The dangerous poet, the intellectual, the visionary, disappeared overnight. A simpler character took his place. The self-destructive rock star. The man who couldn't control himself. It was easier to understand. It fit the myth better. And once that version of Jim Morrison existed, he could never fully contradict it. Because you can't argue with a story people have already decided to believe. All of us always say we love an artist. But do we love them? Or do we love the story we build around them? By late 1970, Morrison looked exhausted. Not from touring, not from success, from playing the same character every night. On his 27th birthday, he spent the evening recording poetry. Not music, just his voice. No audience, no Led Zeppelin. At some point, he collapsed onto a stack of equipment mid-session. Everyone laughed. But Jim, nobody asked why. 3 weeks later, Paris. The popular version calls it a romantic exile. It wasn't. He was negotiating a screenplay deal, finishing a book of poetry, sending postcards home saying he will be back in September. This was not a man preparing to disappear. This was a man trying to become someone else. He died July 3rd, 1971. Bathtub, no autopsy, no official witnesses. Pamela Curson filled the death certificate. She listed his occupation as poet. Not rock star, not Lizard King, poet. The embassy didn't even know who he was until the press started calling. Most people think the tragedy of Jim Morrison is that he died young. I really don't think that's the tragedy. Lots of artists die young. The deeper tragedy is something else. We'll never know who James Morrison would have become. Because the moment he died, the transformation became permanent. The audience no longer needed the complicated human being, the uncertain writer, the evolving artist, the man trying to change. All they needed was the symbol, and symbols never have to become someone new. Jim Morrison spent years creating the Lizard King. Then, he spent years trying to escape him. That's the version of the story that rarely gets told. Because myths prefer certainty. People evolve. Morrison seems to want that chance. To write. To reinvent himself. To become something beyond the role that made him famous. But he never got the opportunity. Morrison spent years trying to kill the Lizard King. Then he died. And the Lizard King got to live forever. He died as Jim Morrison. The world remembered Jim Morrison. And maybe that's the strangest ending of all. The man disappeared. The character survived. That's all for me. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, stay curious. Au revoir.